Hey guys, we're gonna be doing a tier list video. Yeah, and I dread doing these things just because it's very subjective for a lot of reasons. One is because it relies on player experience to experience all the different decks in the meta and see what the matchups are like for them. And since I haven't played like half of these decks, I can only refer to like the deck list. But for those of you guys who want to know my tier list videos, I have about 42 decks loaded up on the screen here, and I'm pretty much going to tell you guys what I think about each of them and where they should belong. For the S tier, this is the tier that pretty much if you want to win a tournament, these are the best decks in Edison. The A tier is going to be the decks that are really great decks, but they tend to lose on against the S tier decks, and your side deck is limited. So that's pretty much the S tier bracket. B tier is going to be the decks that rely on matchups and meta dependent. So those are the decks that are good against certain decks when the meta shifts to a certain direction. But now Edison is becoming more and more solved, so it's really hard to find a good meta dependent deck. Um, yeah, so it's hard to use meta dependent decks to win a tournament. C is going to be the RNG tier. These are the decks that can pretty much beat the S tier decks, or it can pretty much be any deck if it opens up God. So it's gonna happen very infrequently, just because of the nature of the decks that you decide to bring. It's very draw heavy. It's very combo based. You name it. Pretty much have to draw a really good hand. The D tier is gonna be things that are X3 drop, X3 drop, or I have no idea how the deck works. Um, how the deck works. So these are the decks that pretty much don't do anything. Uh, Either they just don't do enough or they just don't do anything based on what I know. And then also this is the deck that these are also the bracket where I just don't have any clue on what it does. Amaryllis is going to be the deck that's pretty much rumored to be better than the quick draw deck. So I don't know how, like, I'm pretty sure the deck kind of works on how, like, you have to be able to open up trade in to discard the Amaryllis. And you also have to mill randomly. You have to mill, like, plants. So the deck relies kind of heavily on Lone Fire Blossom, I would say. And you want to be able to use Lone Fire to bring out the you can't bring out Amaryllis actually, so you actually don't play Lone Fire. I forgot. So Amaryllis, I feel like it's a very like RNG tier deck, because if it mills good and then you discard the Amaryllis, I think you could like essentially just burn your opponent a lot. It plays Titanial too, so you have to pretty much you have to pretty much weigh the option of discarding the Titanial using trade-in, or using discarding Amaryllis. So it's pretty much RNG tier in my opinion. I think it's a little bit less better than Quick Draw. I just don't think it's that good, in my opinion. But you guys can like kill me all you want because I just don't think it's that good. It's RNG tier. Pretty much the top of RNG at the moment, I think. I just don't know. For X-Sabers, I think this deck is really good once Shining Darkness comes out because it just needs Bogger Knight. But for now, in Edison format, it still does kind of like the Full Troll hand loop. So I think it's one of those decks that really needs the cards to pop off. Uh, I mean, it's such a shame because this deck, I mean, in this format you have Cold Wave and you have True Nade, you have all these great power spell and trap removal. However, you just don't have the monsters to really put a lot of you can't really go into Hyunlei really easily unless you have Emmer's Blade, normal summon Airbell, and special summon Voltroll, that kind of business. So I'm gonna put this in sort of the RNG tier, just because you kind of have to open up pretty well just to do well with it. Otherwise, it doesn't do as much as you think it does. Cold Wave, Summoner Monk, Rescue Cat is really nuts in this deck, but again, you just need to open up the God Hand to be able to play it. Caius just murks this deck, especially if they banish the Emmer's Blade. Oppression hurts this deck if they don't open up Trap Stun, you name it. Like the deck falls pretty hard to Oppression. Chainburn. Chainburn is one of those decks where it's matchup dependent. I would say it just depends on if you don't get matched up against Black Wings or anything that can end phase remove your spell and traps, then you are pretty much golden. You have a pretty good matchup against a lot of the meta decks. It's just that a lot of the decks likes to side deck Dust Tornado, so because like deck side deck Dust Tornado, it's really difficult to have like back rows that do well. So they can blind Dust Tornado, and you can lose because they hit your accumulated fortune or your chain strike, which is your main burn piece, or just desserts. So yeah, I think it's matchup dependent. Fish OTK, I think this is one of those decks that relies on opening up a good hand. Sometimes you won't be able to draw your OTK pieces, so you need to be able to have like the components in your hand. That's why you play cards like Gold Sark to make the deck more OTK consistent. But I think like even in like this today's metagame, there's like cards that stop the OTK really well. Uh, so since Dragon Turbo is going to be more popular, I expect that the Thunder King Ryos or any stun cards can stop the Qualican. People are side decking Prohibition now, so all the OTK decks that like do stuff in the RNG tier get stopped because of the big fish. Because it gets stopped because of Prohibition and stuff. So you have to open up like True Nade or Heavy Storm or MST to like pretty much lock out the back rows. And then on top of that, you have to have all your fishes in your deck. I just think it's very RNG-ish. So it's a cool deck. I'm sure like there's ways that you can like if you master the deck, you can pretty much beat every board and every hand. But again, you just need to open up well. So I'm gonna put this in the RNG tier. If you guys wanted a deck profile of this deck, I do have a deck profile of this on my channel, so go check it out on the screen here. So the next one is going to be a Flamvell. This deck relies heavily on matchups, just because you want to resolve the Fire Dog as much as possible, and so decks that play a lot of recruiters, such as the Fairy deck or Chaos Fairies, even with my iterations of Fairy, you want to be able to attack over the recruiter and then generate a Flamvell Magician. You also have to draw the Flamvell Fire Dog too, so depending on your build, you want to be able to not mill the Rekindling, you want to open up the Flamvell Dog, and you have to have the right matchups. And then you can pretty much get level 8 Synchros. Um, in theory, though, it's basically a two-card, two synchro play where ideally you can run over a monster with Flammable Fire Dog, and then you can activate Rekindling to get the Fire Dog and the Flammable Magician, and then synchro summon into a level 8 synchro. So it's a heavy level 8 synchro deck, and it's one of the only few decks that consistently make level 8 synchros. I'm gonna put this in the matchup dependent just because just depends on your matchup. If you attack into a Raikou, it feels pretty bad. If you attack over a Hamster, it feels good. Yeah, then you can synchro summon to Stardust. So it really depends. Like sometimes they'll set the Raikou, but they'll also set the Hamster. So it really depends on the matchup. It can ideally blow out a deck if it can resolve its effect, and then you also have Rekindling, which is a two-card combo, and it's not very consistent in Edison, I would say. Gemini, I have no idea how well the deck works. If you guys want to see the deck profile of a Gemini list, I have it on the screen here. The deck is pretty like power heavy, I would say. But again, I don't know how the deck works to the fullest extent. I would have to play with it to know. It feels like a Gigavice deck, Gigaplant supervised deck, in theory, or you basically have to open up Lone Fire with the supervise in order to do the play. But if you don't have that play, I guess the Gemini Soldier gets you the a level 4 Gemini monster from your deck, I think. Yeah, and then you get a level 4 Gemini monster, and I just don't know what to do with it. It's like a lot of different level 4 monsters you can get with the Gemini Soldier, but you definitely can't get the Lone Fire, or you can't even get the Gigaplant either. So I have no idea. So I'm gonna put this in the D tier just because I have no idea what the deck works. KFC, this deck feels pretty RNG-ish to me, just because you want to be able to open up your draw combos. Anytime your deck draws a lot, and you rely on like certain pieces to pop off. I think it's going to be pretty much. I'm pretty much going to put it in the RNG tier, just because it relies heavily on like your opening hand and stuff, and pretty much relying on the fact that your opponent doesn't draw any type of interaction against you. So yeah, I'm going to put this in the RNG tier. Sky Scourge Norella, same thing. You need to be able to dump your uh, with Grepher, you need to be able to dump the Norellis, and you have to open up the puddle, so to be able to reset the board. I know it did pretty well because of the in the deck list that got first place at some German nationals or some EU nationals. So congrats to that guy. But I think it's RNG-ish in my opinion. You still need to open up trade in, allure darkness to be able to like put this in the graveyard, and then you have to draw into the Phantom of Chaos to reset the board. And on top of that, you kind of have to open like you have to have some setup, so you can't just do this play. You have to have the Dark Creator setup to be able to revive the Red Eyes Darkest Metal Dragon. You need Future Fusion, all that mumbo jumbo. So I just think this deck is even though it resets the board, it still needs to top deck better than your opponent. Okay, plant zombies. I think this deck's great. Titanial is one of those cards that can like prevent Kais from targeting your recruiters, such as Pyramid Turtle and Goblin Zombie. So I think this deck, in conjunction with the Titanial, is really good because you can just do a lot of silly plays. I think it plays Ultimate Offering as well. I'm not entirely sure, but I would definitely play Ultimate Offering in this deck because you're playing the zombie package, and being able to recycle the Plague Spreader zombie is really handy with the Ultimate Offering. And I don't know if they play Illblood, but they don't need to because you have Bryanak and stuff. You have Mizuki, Bryanak, and the Zombie Master to recycle the Plague Spreader zombie. So I think it's going to be A tier for sure. Mausoleum Frogs. Again, I have no idea what this deck does. If you want to see Ragnar's deck list, I'll have it in my on the screen here. He played it and he got second place with it at a PS5 tournament. So if you guys want to know how the deck works, just check out his deck profile. Um, the Fairyless, I don't know. This deck is really hyped. I think it's really overhyped as a good tier. It did top a RBT, or it did top like a tournament in Format Library. I'm not entirely sure which one it is. It was run by I think Sunny, so I don't really know who Sunny is, but I think he got ninth place with it or seventh place with it. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, it's a deck that like has answers to everything, but like again, it doesn't have very much representation for some reason. So I'm gonna put this in the A tier, but I have no idea how well it does. All I know is that it trades really well with DD Warrior Lady and Alchemist. So you kind of use Alchemist and DD Warrior Lady to try to like banish all of your opponent's cards, but you lose a lot of life points and stuff. So I just don't see this deck being like an S tier deck, but definitely an A tier deck for sure because it plays Return from the Different Dimension really well. And that card is really busted in this deck. Being able to revive your DD Warrior Ladies and just being able to clear more threats is kind of like the idea behind the deck, and then you pretty much lock them out with Christia and Soul of Purity and Light too, to be able to generate level 8 synchros with your Orange Light is kind of nuts. But yeah, I'll put it in the A tier. Chaos Fairy, I'm hella biased. I'm gonna put this on the top of A tier. There's just too many iterations of the Chaos Fairy deck that could play really well. So I think like this deck has room to grow, and then it has the most room to be able to reach the top of A tier, and eventually just hit the S tier. I think I like expect this deck to do better as the meta shifts, and as more people get onto the deck. I just think it's one of the best decks in the format. In the A tier bracket, sorry, it's not one of the best decks in the format. It just has room to grow because there's too many dark monsters and there's too many good light fairy targets that whatever the meta shifts, this deck will adapt to fit the meta. So definitely A tier for sure. Um, Rescue Cat. This is the Synchro Cat deck. It plays Spy and Rescue Cat. I think it's A tier. It's just really good because it's able to generate like a good synchro board with Airbellum. Airbellum's nuts in this deck. It's just really good because what you can do with it is you're able to like Rescue Cat into double Airbellum and then generate so much pluses. Pretty much I explained this in my favorite decks of all time. This is one of my favorite decks of all time, especially in Edison, because it's able to do Cold Wave shenanigans and pretty much end on really good boards afterwards. So yeah, definitely A tier. I'm gonna put this below the fairy deck though, just because the fairy deck has more representation in the top than Synchro Cat. This is Prismaglads. Prismaglad, I'm gonna put this in matchup dependent, just because again, you really rely on like matchups to do well in this for this deck. It loses pretty hard to hero beat, and it does really well with against frogs, just because you can manage their Treeborn Frog with Radiari. Yeah, I just think it's going to be in the B tier matchup. But it loses to Hero Beat, and it has like consistency issues as well. Sometimes you draw Prisma without any Gladiator Beast to contact fusion with. Sometimes you draw Prisma without Test Tiger. So it relies heavily on you drawing really well, and then plus your traps are less better than your on the other iterations of Gladiator Beast because you do play less traps. So the less traps that you play, you're able to play less good defense. So I'm definitely going to put this on the bottom of the Gladiator Beasts. I have other variations of Gladiator Beasts on here, so definitely on the bottom of the Gladiator Beasts, matchup dependent. Hero Frogs, yeah, it's been doing pretty well, and it's definitely going to be the S tier bracket. I don't need to explain too much of it. It just does. It circumvents Massacre Restrict, so if people side deck against that deck, Massacre Restrict can be circumvented with the Miracle Fusion and also the Junk Synchron. That's pretty much all I have to say. Check out the Fraser Smith video if you guys want to see the deck list for that one. Quick Draw, definitely A tier. Even though it loses pretty hard to deck Devastation Virus, that's why it's in the A tier. But otherwise, it's a really good deck. I think it's because it's able to do so much. Being able to recycle your Dandelion tokens with the Drill Warrior is really big because you can make your Titanial literally unbeatable. They had to literally open up a way to make level 8 Synchro, Colossal Fighter to run over the Titanial. Another way they can out it is by summoning Deep Sea Diva and making a Catastor. But this deck has a lot of room to grow. I think this deck can really do well with Ultimate Offering in my opinion because if they try to like attack over the Titanial somehow, tribute summoning one of your tokens for Caius on your opponent's turn is really big. So I think this is one of those decks that can generate that really well. You can also flip Ultimate Offering to set a hamster. I think Ultimate Offering is going to be seeing a lot more play, in my opinion, for the quick drop deck. It just does a lot. Yeah, just this deck just does a lot. Being able to reset the board and avarice and stuff. Yeah, definitely an A tier deck. I think I would put this above fairies and above the zombie decks just because Drill Warrior can be played in this deck, but not below my Chaos Fairies because Chaos Fairy is broken. Okay, so I'm gonna put this right there. Number two, Dimensional Fisher Glad. I'm gonna put this above the Prismaglass just because the decks that you have for Dimensional Fisher is gonna be really good because you want to stop Light Swarm from milling. So if you have that, they have to find a way to pop it with like Lila and stuff. So hopefully you'll be able to open up a Bottomless or a Chariot to pretty much lock out people from playing their deck. So yeah, definitely going to be above the Prismaglass just because it has more trap cards and stuff to stop against most of the decks. Hero Beat with Skill Drain, I'm going to put this on the X3 drop. This deck is okay, but you want to be able to have your effects go off. You want to have Ocean. I think that deck's a little bit better than the Hero Beat version of this. But the thing is, a lot of people side deck Dust Tornado against this deck already, or Decree. So skill drain is often not so great. Stun using the stun like mechanic is just not so great, in my opinion. Sometimes you just clog your hands with Beast King Barbaros, and Beast King Barbaros is not as good as Alias because you can't Gemini Spark with it. So oftentimes you'll be drawing a lot of dead cards. This deck already has a monster issue, so you have to open up like the skill drain with Barbaros to make this deck really good. So I just think this deck's really consistent compared to the established Diva Hero deck list. But yeah, I'm definitely going to put this in the X3 drop. And I'm going to put this on the... so to differentiate between the X3 drops and the I don't know, I'm going to put the I don't knows in the bottom. I'm going to put the I don't knows in the top and then the X3 drops in the bottom so you guys can know. Dragon Turbo, I think it's one of those RNG tier decks. Even though it did win our RBET Moreno Valley, I'm actually going to put this on the top just because it did win RBT Moreno Valley in a lot of different tournaments. It is pretty consistent. I've seen a lot of decks like do well with it, but I still think you have to open up pretty well against your opponent to do well with it. I think Hydro Pump also did well at a recent BBG, pretty much a BBG event where it's like a 2K event. He got top 4 with it, so yeah, definitely at the top of the RG tier for sure because it's able to do really well, but also it's dependent on your draw again. So yeah, I won't put this on the top of the RNG tier. Glider Beasts, Burden of the Mighty. Burden of the Mighty and Shrink, I think it belongs in a deck that can better utilize it, such as stun. GBs, I don't think it utilizes Burn of the Mighty that well, so I'm gonna put this on the bottom of Prisma just because you have less combo power. Pretty much have less combo as compared to the Prisma deck. Diva Heroes Zombies, I'm gonna put this on the A tier deck just because it's more consistent than RNG tier. You do have a lot of good cards in this deck. You play Stratos, you play Feature Fusion to be able to dump the Malicious and be able to activate your Miracle Fusion better than any other deck. You can also send Fossil Dyna too if you have Call the Haunted, so you can flip Call the Haunted and get you can pretty much get Fossil Dyna with the Evil Hero Gaia. I just think this deck is definitely A tier. It bricks sometimes, but you play the zombie engine and the diva engine, so those themselves are pretty good engines to have in general. If you guys want a deck list of this, I'll have it on the screen so you guys can check out what the deck is like. It was played by the 3v3 tournament at the Nintendo Switch tournament that I covered a couple months back. This deck can pretty much do pretty well if in the right hands. So definitely check it out if you guys want to see it. This is going to be the Christia Sworn deck. I think Christia Sworn deck is an RNG deck. I'm going to put a lot of decks in the RNG decks just because you need to open up pretty well. You need to open up the Soul Recharge with pretty much so you can discard like a Light Sworn and mill two and hopefully have like your Beckoning Light and stuff. Definitely RNG tier. I don't know where exactly in the RNG tier. I think I'm going to put this below Fish OTK or maybe a little bit above Fish OTK and above Norellis and above, definitely above X Sabers. Um, I think X Sabers should be a little bit lower actually. Ember's Blade is kind of consistent, so yeah, I don't know where to put this. I'm gonna put this below the Fish OTK deck, so kind of like that in the RNG tier. Uh, this is basically the same deck as this card, but it's less consistent because it plays Deep Sea Diva. So I'm gonna put this right here below the Deep Sea Diva deck. Yeah. Value Turbo, S tier. It won Nationals for a reason. It's good. It pops off. It does a lot. Burial from Different Dimensions is really broken in this deck. Definitely going to consider, yeah, just play this. Play this deck if you want to win tournaments. It does have some like pop-off issues sometimes, but I think for the most part, it does really well. If you play this deck like better than everybody else, you're winning the tournament. Pure Black Wings, I think this deck is better than Value Turbo in my opinion because even though Value Turbo is able to generate these bodies and OTKs, Blackwing Pure is just what can you say? Like this deck does a lot. It's very balanced, I would say, and because it's balanced, you can side deck better than most decks. And Collude is awesome, and Blizzard's awesome. So definitely going to be number two spot in the S tier deck. This is going to be Welladad Zombies, definitely A tier. I would put this right around. Where would I put this? I would put this on the bottom, I would say, of these two decks just because it relies heavily on you having Krebons in the graveyard or and then have opening a Power Well. Sometimes you'll draw Power Well, zombies, and Krebons, and you have to hope that the zombies stay alive somehow. So you play cards like Book of Life to make sure that happens and stuff. Call the Han is another one too. It plays a lot of Revival, but if you lose your graveyard somehow because you know you're playing against Macro Monarchs or some sort of macro deck, or even GBs, it has trouble. I would definitely put this on the bottom of that. Dark Refer hybrid version of Black Wings. I think this deck is less powerful than the pure Black Wings. So I'm gonna put this over here, just because you know it doesn't do what you think it does. Drawing Greffer and leaving him out there is not ideal, just because this deck doesn't play the Vayu Turbo engine as well as this deck tries to do it. So I'm gonna put this on the bottom of the S tier deck. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Gigavice, Gigaplant deck. I'm gonna play X3 drop. It's not very consistent. You don't want to like the whole idea behind Sacred Summoning is that you don't want to neg too hard on the monsters you make. I guess you can make a Power Tool Dragon, but the issue is that you can draw your equip spells, and then your Power Tool Dragon isn't a +1 after turn one, so it's just kind of normal. I guess Mark the Rose is kind of cool in this deck because you generate a lot of plants, but I definitely think it's one of those decks that likes to have, like, it does well on your turn, but it doesn't do very well on your opponent's turn. So I'm gonna put this in the extra drop. Um, Trap Dragons, definitely A tier deck. Just being able to have your Quakimaru Drago online at all times is really good, and being able to have it and revealing a dragon in the end phase is what the deck does really well, and being able to lock out all the dark decks. So definitely a good deck. If you get paired up against Black Wings, it's okay because you have the Quakimaru Drago. You also have Prime Material Dragon all randomly too to stop the Icarus attack. So definitely one of those decks that can do well against Black Wings with the right hand. Having Starlight Rhodos to lock out the Icarus attack is another reason why the deck's good. I definitely think it's an A tier deck. Where on the A tier deck? I don't know exactly. I'll probably put it above the Well Dead deck. And yeah, this deck doesn't lock out the Diva decks too well. And so any deck that plays other elements or other attributes besides Dark and Light, definitely put this below that to some degree. Synchro Cat feels a little better than Dragons just because you have Descendant pops. But you're already able to stop the Gravekeeper from resolving, Gravekeeper Spy from resolving its effect to get the Descendant, and then pretty much control the board from there. Stun gadgets. Stun isn't good in this format, so I'm gonna put stun like on the matchup dependent. Yeah, I don't know. It just does really well on your turn because you can summon a gadget, but on your opponent's turn, like I guess what's carrying you is the monster effects, such as Banisher the Radiance and Fossil Dyna, and your trap cards. If you do draw them, the only issue gadgets would be like tier one if you can draw into your trap cards consistently. So if like there was a monster, if your gadget said discard one gadget from your hand to draw two, I think this deck would be really good. The issue is that it runs out of trap cards because you're playing a lot of stun package, so definitely matchup dependent. I would even say it's like X3 drop almost. I'm gonna put it in X3 drop. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of X3 drop, right next to the Alias deck. So I'll probably put Alias around here. Actually, Alias is a little better just because you have the Hero Beat matchup. Be able to access the Absolute Zero is pretty better. It's better than this deck. Um, Diva Hero Beat. I think this deck's okay. Definitely A tier for sure. It's not matchup dependent because your deck is normal summon reliant. So because it's normal summon reliant and you had to open up Miracle Fusion with the setup, I think it's less better than the other decks in this bracket. It's better than Fairies for sure because it has more representations in tournament, but I don't think it's better than. It's probably better than Plant Zombies, but I don't think it's better than Quick Draw or Chaos Fairies because I'm biased. But yeah, definitely putting the this deck in the number three spot right here. Volcanic Quick Draw, it's matchup dependent. If you play against recruiter decks like the shells that you discard off the volcanic rocket or the volcanic blaze accelerator, it's really cool. But other than that, it doesn't do as much as it should. Sometimes like you can see it as like the deck that plays three Stratos. You do have three Stratos in this deck, but the issue is the once you activate Blaze Accelerator, you don't have any more targets in your deck unless you play three copies like all crazy. And I wouldn't play three copies of this. You have to open up this card and Shell or Mill Shell. It's matchup dependent for sure. Um, yeah, Diva Zombies. I think it's a really good deck. It's probably going to be better than Sangro Cat. Yeah, it's better than Sacred Cat for sure. I don't know why this is above the Deep Sea Diva deck or this. I would definitely put this like right here actually. Yeah, this belongs over here. But yeah, this is where Diva. I think Diva Zombies is better than Diva Hero Zombies just because it does so much more. Um, Speaking of which, where is Diva Heroes? I don't have Diva Heroes here. Okay, so yeah, I guess we'll pretend this is Diva Heroes, okay? This is supposed to be Frog Monarchs, but we're gonna make this as Diva Heroes. Frog Monarchs. If you guys want to know where Frog Monarchs lie, Frog Monarchs lies in the where would Frog Monarchs lie? I would put Frog Monarchs at the below. Uh, hmm. Because Frog Monarchs relies on tribute summoning, it's going to be matchup dependent, I would say, at the top of matchup dependent, just because some people don't side deck Mask Restrict, but everyone side decks pulling the rug, so it pretty much stops you in your tracks. But this is where pure Frog Marks would be. It's a lot less better than the Hero Frogs matchups, but it's definitely matchup dependent. and it definitely relies on your opponent not drawing to pulling the rugs and Masking Restrict if they side that. But Diva Heroes definitely going to be in the S tier deck, just because it's OTK potential. I would actually put this above the hybrid version, just because it's one of those decks that relies heavily on. I mean, the hybrid version relies on Greffer more. I don't know. It's definitely between somewhere this here and there. Machina Gadgets, I definitely think it's A tier deck. I think people are cutting Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon out of their extra deck, but in the event that they do, it's okay. Being Contact Fusion by all this, I think this deck is really good because it plays limit removal and Solidarity, and those cards are amazing in this deck. Being able to run over big monsters is huge. Machina Fortress is obviously broken. I would definitely put this below. I definitely think this is better than the Krabon's deck. Probably even better than Spy deck. So I'll probably put it above Trap Dragons. Uh, yeah, I would probably put it right here in this bracket. I think it's really good because, like I said before, it plays really good cards like Limiter Removal. It plays three Stratos in your deck to be able to search for the Fortress. It's the best +1 deck, I would say. Being able to normal summon. It's normal summon reliant, but your Fortress is really there at all times. So I'll put this right there. Gravekeeper definitely matchup dependent. I would say it's less better than the GBs, but it's better than the Volcanic deck. Your deck relies heavily on Necro Valley surviving, and the decks that it survives against, you don't want it like it doesn't do anything against Frog Monarchs, for example, because Treeborn brings itself out from the graveyard, so it's not good against those matchups. I don't think it's that good against Hero Beat, to be honest, because Hero Beat has Gemini Spark to be able to deal with your Necro Valley. Once your Necro Valley goes down, all your monsters are vanilla. So I honestly think that Attack Declaration, if you attack with a 2000 monster into a monster that has more than 1500 attack, and they go MST or Destronito in Attack Declaration, it feels really bad. So I'm definitely gonna put this in the matchup dependent. Against Quick Draw, it's really good against Quick Draw because you're able to lock out Debris Dragon. But again, they have Raikou to pop like all your cards, including Necro Valley and Spy. So definitely matchup dependent. I would even probably put this in the X3 drop, but I don't know. Solidarity Birds, I have no idea. I've never played Solidarity with Black Wings in my life, but I see the theory behind it. You can normal summon it. You can normal summon under Whirlwind and then search for Sirocco, but I don't really see that being an advantage. Your birds are bigger than everybody else's, but you play less traps because of Solidarity. So I don't know where to put it. I'm gonna put this in the I don't know tier. I'm gonna put this below these two because these decks are proven, whereas I don't know where this is exactly. Offering gadgets, this should be the same as this one, because in theory it's the same thing. It just doesn't play the Machina engine, so you play more traps. So I'll definitely put this over here just because you play more traps. But this deck is a little better in theory. Uh, this is the Welodad, but it plays Malicious instead of the Zombie engine. So I'm gonna put this right around the same bracket as this. It has the same issue. It breaks more than this deck, so I'm gonna put this below than this one because you play Malicious. I don't know if you played this deck with Wing Blast, but definitely you would play it. You can make Bryanak and discard, but I don't know. I just put this right there. Quick Draw Heroes, I have no idea. I've never played this deck, but it did well, so I'm gonna put this above the offering wings. And then last but not least, Machina Monarchs. This deck has a monster issue where you don't know whether you want to set Raikou or normal summon a gadget. So that you run into that little issue, and that's kind of problematic. So I'm gonna put this in the bottom of A tier. But yeah, that's my tier list video. I hope you guys enjoyed this particular deck, this tier list video. I was hoping this would be more stimulating for you guys, but it's pretty much standardized across all the board. I pretty much put Black Wings on the top with the Frog Monarchs, and I pretty much put all my favorite decks in the A tier deck. That's pretty much the trend. All the RNG decks that have been doing well, I think, in my opinion, if your deck has to draw a lot to get your combo pieces, it's going to be put into the RNG tier. That's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Yeah, this is my first tier list video for 2023. If you guys have any other decks that might go on to here, just let me know in the comments. I think I definitely missed one for sure. I just don't know which one. But yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.